Hi, my name is Edwin Diaz, and I'm a software and web developer with over 200,000 students worldwide in 200 different countries from udemy.com alone. On this course, you will learn how to download, install, and run PHP in your computer. And I'm also going to teach you all the PHP fundamentals. So, this course is part of my PHP for Beginners course, which covers over 30 hours of content. And when I take you, or when I take students from zero, from not knowing anything about PHP or programming, to becoming a master PHP developer. I'm going to be using a lot of different tools there, so you're going to learn a ton of things that you would never learn in other courses. I promise you that. It's going to be amazing. Now, with over 40,000 students and growing by the minute, this course has been the best seller and the best rated for some time in udemy.com alone. You can check out the reviews if you like. It's always being updated and it has great support once you get inside the class. If you want to check out this course, you can click the link in the description of this video. And by clicking the link, you're going to get a discount for just becoming a student. It's going to be a really awesome experience, and you're going to pay very, very, very little price compared to what the course is worth just for clicking that link there. If you don't sign up, don't worry, but at least sign up for the channel. Subscribe to the Udemy channel. That way you can take advantage of all the cool things that you can learn here. So if you guys are ready to learn PHP, I'm ready to teach. Let's get started. Hi, welcome my dear students. So here in this lecture, I want to explain to you what PHP really is. And I'm not going to give you some really hard to grasp concept on what it is or answer. I want you to understand it in a very simple manner. PHP is a server-side scripting language or programming language. It's in the server. Now we got languages, programming languages that are used in the browser. We got programming languages that are used in your client, like for example, JavaScript. We got stuff like HTML and CSS that are used on the client. The client, when I say client, means the browser. You see, this is a program in your computer. The browser is a program, okay, that's created using a language like C++. And this program's job, or the browser's job, is to do lots of things. But it works with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, okay? So when you see stuff like, when I click here, JavaScript is creating all these effects, okay? For example, I'm just giving you an example of the stuff that it does. All this text is being outputted by, it's using HTML, and all these colors and stuff is CSS and stuff like that, okay? So the browser's job is to communicate across, not only from where you are, if you have internet, but also display certain things that you have in your computer. For example, if you have an HTML page, you can display that in your browser, but that would be an HTML page. You can put CSS, and you can even put JavaScript. So those are client-side programming languages. Well, the HTML is a markup language, okay? But JavaScript is a client-side programming language. PHP is not. You cannot run PHP in your computer unless you have a program that we are going to be installing in the next lectures, okay? So we are going to make our computer a server by using another program. And don't be scared, don't worry. It's not something that's going to mess up your computer or anything like that. It's just a small program that is going to act as a server, so that way we can run PHP and show you what this is all about, okay? So PHP, like I say, is a server-side language. And now when we talk about PHP, we send a request when we type an address. For example, I come here to my website and I say, and I click contact, right? This is sending a request to where my domain is located, to where that server is behind the scenes, okay? So it's sending a request to the contact page. So because this is written in PHP, okay, it goes to a PHP server in the backend, and that server executes, okay, or processes that PHP and processes all the data you send it in that request, and then it sends back what you see in front of you. It sends back HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. It sends all that stuff back to you, to the client, to the browser, okay? Because that server has to be a PHP server in order to receive PHP. So every time we send a request, when we send it from our browser, okay, we are sending PHP stuff, and it needs to be processed and then sent back as HTML and CSS, because browsers cannot understand PHP. So it needs to be processed on a server or some type of program in your computer, like you will see in the next lectures. Okay, so that's it. That's what PHP is. Okay, and there are many hosting providers out there that can actually run PHP. And here is a couple different images that I found. When you type in "why is PHP," you can look at it and get a better idea with some graphics. You can see that from a laptop here, we send the web page request, which is in PHP. This is the server here. It will process that PHP, transform it into HTML, and send back those text files. Okay, HTML, CSS, and text files back. Okay, and PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. And it also stands for personal home page or something like that. That was the first meaning of PHP back in the day, when the creator, the developer of PHP, made it happen. Okay, so that's it. I don't want to make this a lot more complicated than what it is. That's all. It's a programming language on the server. We need a PHP server to understand it, or we need to process PHP, or we need some type of program in our computer to develop PHP programs, like I'm about to show you in the next lectures. Okay, so anyway, are you guys ready? Okay, let's continue with this now. Hi, welcome, my dear students. So it's time for us to start playing around with PHP. But before we do that, of course, we need to download some type of program to allow us to run PHP. Remember that PHP is a scripting language that works in the server. Okay, some people or some developers call it a programming language as well, because you can do a lot more than just scripts with PHP. Okay, so you're gonna hear those terms: scripts, scripting, and programming. So that's okay. Now, to run PHP, we need a server, but because we are in development, we can take advantage of some free programs out there that we can download to our computer, and those programs will act as a server. So we can develop our programs there, or websites or applications, and then we can export that to a hosting company out there, like maybe GoDaddy, or there's so many different companies that you can run PHP. As a matter of fact, it's 90% of the web runs on PHP. So you can find a lot of hosting companies out there, and I'll give you some recommendation later on. But right now, you're learning. So here's the deal: we need to run PHP. So what do we need? Well, I'm going to show you a couple different ways of running PHP in your computer. The preferred way that I use for my students, that I recommend my students to start with, is MAMP. Okay, it has Apache, MySQL, okay, and Apache is the software, or the little program that runs, right, the server that runs the PHP. Okay, this is what processes PHP, and MySQL runs the databases. Okay, so you're gonna have a MySQL data server in this little program. Remember, the program is going to be acting like a server, so it's not really a server, it's just acting like it inside your computer. Okay, so you can download MAMP for Windows and Mac OS. And if you click on any of these links here, you can see the options right here. Now, this interface of this website could change and will change in the future. So don't worry, as long as you download the latest version of PHP, you're good to go. Okay? Doesn't matter what version you download after 7, really. Haven't seen any more big changes, okay, after 7 to 7.2. But remember that, PHP, the community keeps adding features and making PHP faster and faster. So downloading the latest version would not hurt you. Okay, sometimes I prefer to download something in the middle, okay, just to play it safe. But anyway, so you can go ahead and download it just like you download any program, and just follow the prompts. It's very easy to install. Okay, so MAMP is one way of installing PHP on your computer or playing around with it. I'll show you the installer right now. I'm using a Mac right now, but it should be very similar to Windows. You just open the installer once you finish downloading it, and you're gonna have something like this. You're gonna go through the prompts, continue, continue, agree, continue, 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 and install it. Okay, I already have it, so I'm not going to play around with it. Okay, so once you install it, it's going to look like this. You're gonna open your control panel. You're gonna find it in your programs in your computer, just like a regular program. You click on it and you open it up. Okay, you can stop. Right now mines are running. Okay, you can see it says Apache server. This is what runs PHP. MySQL is what runs the databases. We're not using any of them right now, but the environment is running. Okay, so for those of you using Windows, you're gonna have a folder called MAMP in your programs, okay, in your C drive. So go to your C drive and you're gonna see a folder called MAMP. And inside of that folder, okay, let me actually show you my folder so that way you can get an idea. Even though I'm in a Mac operating system, for Windows users, it should be very similar to that. Let me show you applications for Mac users, and I'll show you right now if I can find the M right here. Okay, and you're gonna have inside this MAMP folder. For Windows, remember, is on your C drive. Okay, and for Mac users, since you're in your applications, MAMP, and then you're gonna find this folder called htdocs. This is where all your projects are gonna be located. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna create a folder right here in htdocs, and I'm gonna call this PHP. Okay, enter. That's gonna be my folder there, and inside there I'm gonna create a file, but I'm gonna show you that later on. So this is MAMP. There is also another program. If that gives you a problem, we also have XAMPP. Okay, this is another one. As you can see, just download it. It's very similar to that one. There is also another one called WAMP. There's a whole bunch of them. WAMP server right here. So if any of those gives you a problem, you have many choices. And if for some reason you can't download any programs in your computer and you're doing this from some type of mobile device or something like that, you can run PHP online. Run PHP online. Okay, and I'll show you a couple of different ones. This one here. Okay, as you can see, you can run PHP. Right now, this echo means this little word, and this means display. Okay, so if you run that, you can see that you're gonna see the display text in the bottom there. There's a different one that's actually better. Let me show you. Run PHP online. This one, I like this one because you can write your PHP, and I'll show you. You don't have to actually pay a lot of attention to this. I'm gonna create a variable, which I'm going to explain later on what they are. But look at it as a container, okay? I'm gonna put my name, Edwin Diaz, in here. Okay, and then I'm going to use echo to display that variable. And remember that the variable is a container. Okay, so remember, now I put the value, I assign the value to this variable, and now I'm displaying with echo the variable that has this value there, right? Okay, now I can run the code, and this is the output right here. It's taking a little bit because maybe some people are already using this. Okay, Shift Enter will also execute this code. If for some reason you find that this is taking too long, there are other ones that you can use. But as you can see, we are displaying what we wanted here. Okay, and just to give you an example that this is working perfectly, I'm going to create one variable here, and I'm going to create another variable. One is called number one, the other one's called number two, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add both of them together. Okay, plus the variable number two. Put the semicolon there to finish the statement. Then I'm going to run the code. This is just taking a little bit. Let me just go somewhere else. PHP, run PHP online. Okay, This is another one right here, fiddle. I think this is a good one here too. It's a little bit more complicated, but as you can see right here, I was able to add two numbers, 1 and 10, and display it with echo. See that? So anyway, that's another option for you guys that don't have that, the ability to download some type of program to your computer. But anyway, so I'm done showing you MAMP, XAMPP, WAMP, and running on PHP online. So are you guys ready to go to the next section? Let's do it. So I'll see you in a couple seconds where we are going to be enjoying PHP real time. Take care, guys. See you next. Okay, so after we download our programs to execute PHP on our computer, we need to test it to see if it works, right? So for those of you that downloaded MAMP, all you have to do is go to localhost on top here. Okay. First of all, open your MAMP control panel. Okay. And then you can click on this open web start page. Okay. Now this is the program working on your computer. And as you can see right here on top, it says localhost. This is the address, the name, okay, of the port of the address that you're going to be using for your application. For example, if I type in 127.0, okay, .0.1, it's the same thing as typing localhost. So these programs, they all take the internal address 127.0.0.1 as the address of that your development environment. Now, what differs is the port number right here. As you can see, it says colon 8888. Yours might be different. So you got to look at your control panel, okay, and look at your preferences and make sure that your ports, okay, are exactly like that. Now you can change your ports. I can change my Apache ports to be whatever I want. I can put A777 here, click OK, restart my servers, and type in A777 here, and I will get the same page right here. Okay? So for those of you that are actually having issues with your ports, you can change them right here. The Apache, remember, is for PHP. MySQL is to connect to databases. Okay? And that's it. You can stop your servers and restart them again, and then your ports will change. Okay? So anyway, so once you have your program downloaded, for some of you, it's going to be 8888, like mine. For some of you, it's just going to be localhost, like that. Or, 127.0.0.1, or just localhost, like this. Okay? So, where is this coming from? You might be thinking, okay, it says it works, so something must be working. Well, you got that right. We have this MAMP, this folder, right? MAMP, htdocs, and PHP. Now, that it works is coming from our program, okay? We have many different files right here. Look at that, all these folders. All these folders carry everything that program needs to work, okay? Look at this. So this is where all that is coming from. Now, in order for us to start working on our project, remember that we created this folder called PHP right there. Let me put another view in my computer. Already inside this. I'm going to create a new folder, actually a file. So here's the deal. Before we get into creating projects or anything like that, we need to find a way to execute PHP. Not only to execute it, but to edit our code, okay? So we are seeing things here, but this is the browser showing us some information, some data. We need some type of editor. So we need there are a couple different editors out there. There are text editors, okay? Text editors are editors that we can use to execute, to edit code. Okay, this is a very popular one, Sublime. Okay, now these editors, some of them have many different plugins that you can use it for different languages. Okay, you can use Sublime for PHP, for JavaScript, for Node.js, but you need to install different plugins to make the support better. And when I say support, means that these editors will recognize the programming language that you are using and will highlight certain things from that language. Okay, we don't need a .text editor because Sublime actually, it's something that you have to pay for. So I'll show you a free one that I like to use for PHP. I'll show you PHP. It's called Brackets. Okay, brackets.io. So you can go ahead and download Brackets. It's a free open source, okay, editor, which is super awesome for HTML, JavaScript, and even PHP. And then you can also use it with other languages. So if I open Brackets, I'll show you. I probably have some type of file here. Okay, this is actually the index of Brackets. It says made with love and JavaScript. Okay, so anyway, we created a folder in the MAMP, in the htdocs directory, right? We created this PHP folder. So what I'm going to do with this PHP folder that we created in the htdocs is I'm going to drop it in there inside the Brackets, and that's it. Now keep this in mind, okay? Download it, download Brackets, and install it like you installed any other program. Okay, I'm going to click it here just to show you real quick. Super easy to install, guys. It's just like you install any other program. Okay, let's wait for it. Let's wait. Okay, and in the Mac, of course, we have to drag it here. But anyway, so it's very easy to install, and then the next thing you know, you will have it installed in your computer. Go to your programs, double click it, or if it installs an icon here on your desktop, go ahead and double click that, and you should have Brackets. Okay, so anyway, this is my new version of Brackets, I guess. So let's use the new version. So now that we have this editor here, we have the folder open right here. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna put index.php. Now, when we are actually writing HTML, remember that PHP is a language that we embed with HTML. It works with HTML. It gives HTML superpowers. Okay? So, in order for the browser to execute PHP, in order for the server, the little program that we got right here, MAMP in my case, to understand that we are creating a PHP file, we need to give it an extension, index, or whatever name you want, .php. That way, this program here knows, okay, we are expecting PHP stuff here. Okay, so we are going to be executing PHP. So now we need to create some type of PHP code here. So I'm going to use a less than symbol, question mark, PHP, space, question mark, greater than symbol. So less than symbol, question mark, PHP, all together, and then space, question mark, greater than symbol. I'm going to put the cursor right here. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to put it down a little bit. And I'm just going to write echo right here. Between here, any white spaces that you type in before this line, it really doesn't matter. Okay. So echo, I'm going to put two quotes, shift, and I'm going to put Edwin Diaz, which is my name, and then a semicolon at the end of this. All right. Write everything exactly like I'm doing it right now. I'm going to do Command S or Control S to save it, or you can just go to File and then Save. Now, let's open up our browser. We should have our browser somewhere here. Remember localhost? Okay. So, for some of you, you're going to have 8888 or whatever port number. And for those of you that have a port number, just type in that port number and PHP, okay, and then enter. And I want you to look out, see what happened. You see my name now? So this code right here is the same as this. Okay, look at the folder structure here, PHP, and then we have this file index. We don't, you see this program right here, MAMP, or any PHP server knows that index is the root. It's the home page. So it does not display here. You can type it in if you like. Really doesn't matter. But the PHP server knows, which is Apache right now. Okay? Very, very simple. Now, if I create another file, I'm going to create another file. I'm going to call this example.php. And I'm going to copy what I got there, here, paste it there, and I'm just going to put example here. Save. Now in this, here on top, I need to put the name of the file with extension. And you can see now that we are executing what's here. Okay? See how simple that was? So you can also come here, and for those of you that don't need to type a port, right, and do something like this, but mine, I need to type a port in mine. Okay? Mine needs a port. But some of you might not need a port, and you just go to localhost, PHP, and the name of the file. Okay? So let's go back here. Very easy to execute PHP. So we're done with this lecture. I'll see you in a couple seconds in the other lecture, guys. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. For some of you, it was probably a couple seconds, but I did pause the video. I had to take a little break. But anyway, are you guys ready? Okay, let's do this. So we are learning a lot of cool stuff here with PHP. We were able to download a program and we are able to execute PHP. If you have any issues, you can make a comment and we can help you fix it. Remember that I also have this full course that I created entirely on PHP, where we build, a content management like WordPress from scratch. The link is in the description. But I take you from not knowing anything to becoming a master in PHP. You're going to love that course. So anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to show you with this editor that we downloaded called Brackets is that we can have extensions. Okay, so go to Brackets, open your program, and you can go to Extension Manager right here. And I like to download this extension called Emmet. Okay. And I already have it installed, but if you don't have it, go ahead and click installed and restart Brackets again. Go turn it off right here and find it somewhere in your computer. Click it, double click it, and drop that folder and get that folder PHP in there again, and you're up and running again with this. Okay, so with this, I can do something like this. I can put a exclamation here with shift and my number 1, right, in my keyboard, and then tab, and that would create a skeleton, HTML skeleton file that we can use to build our applications. Okay, this is the structure that we need for any HTML document. This is a HTML5 structure. Okay, HTML5 is the version, it's a doc type. Okay, this is the version that we're using, and this is the modern version of HTML. And if you don't know HTML, you should take a course on HTML. My name is Edwin Diaz, and I do have a free course on HTML and CSS, okay? But PHP runs on HTML as well. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So this is the file. I'm going to, I put an H1 tag here, meaning that I'm gonna turn this text into an H1. I'm gonna click here and it's telling me, hey, listen, you need to type in this address here for this to work. And I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna do the address that I have on top here, localhost colon 888. Okay, and then I believe it was PHP where my project was located. Now if I click here, I'm actually getting this right here. See that? So it's working now. Let me actually take this browser out and let me put this in the side right here so you guys see what I'm doing. Let's come back here. Now I can actually launch everything from here. So now, like I was mentioning before, we can embed PHP into HTML. They both work together. It's like having HTML with steroids. It's like giving HTML steroids. Let me show you. So I'm going to create right here on top of the file some PHP. I'm gonna come here. So remember that we need to have an opening and a closing tag for PHP to work. This less than symbol question mark PHP all together is the opening tag, and this question mark greater than symbol is the closing tag. So we're telling here start PHP, okay, and then you end it right here, so that way you can start HTML. Now I go into more details in my full course. I take you from all the way from scratch, but in this course, in this series here, I'm showing you these examples. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create a variable with a question, with a dollar symbol. I'm gonna name the variable whatever I want. Remember, the dollar symbol and the name of the variable, they need to be together. Then we have this equal than symbol to assign a value. We can assign strings, a string meaning text with double quotes or single quotes, or numbers without them. Okay, so I'm gonna use double quotes on mine, and I'm gonna put Edwin Diaz. Okay, so now if I wanted to display this right now, I'm gonna take this off, I'm gonna save it, and when I save it, you can see this live preview with brackets. This is one of the things I love about brackets. It will show you right away what's doing. Now if you for some reason cannot get this to work, remember that you need to save your document and refresh. Okay, so if for some reason this little Thunderbolt thing doesn't work for you, all you have to do is save the document, save, and refresh your browser, and then you will see the value change. But anyway, I'm gonna take that off, and then I'm gonna do Command S or Control S to save it, and you see that's out of there. If I wanted to display this value, my variable name, and you can name your variables whatever you want, I have to put your PHP code opening tag right here. So, and the closing tag, PHP tag. So let me close it to start HTML again. And I'm gonna do echo, because echo is a little word that we use to display stuff. And the name of my variable after, and then after a semicolon. And then I'm going to do save, Command S or Control S. And now you can see the value again right here. So you can see now that we're using PHP right here, which is really awesome, right? I can do first name, and if I do this, you see now that I'm getting some type of error. This is actually our little program here called MAMP giving us this error, and it's telling us on line 16 there is a undefined variable, and they are correct. We don't have this variable anywhere. So I'm gonna create another variable here, and I'm gonna call this last name. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put together first name here. Let me just take this out. Command S or Control S to save it. and I'm going to concatenate. This is called concatenation. A dot and the next variable name, which is last name. Enter. And as you can see, we have those together there. Now, there's no space there, so we need to actually tell PHP, listen, I want you to put a space there. So we need to concatenate a space. And we do that by putting these single quotes here. You can put double quotes, it doesn't matter. Save, and now you can see that it does have a space. Okay? Pretty awesome stuff, right, guys? And always, when you're writing HTML, you always write it on the top of your, when you're writing PHP, I'm sorry, you always write it on the top of your HTML. Okay, so that way you can start using it inside here as well. But you want your PHP to execute before your HTML when the browser sees it. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in a couple seconds in the other lecture. Welcome, my dear students. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun in this small series in PHP. Remember that the link to the full course is in the description of this video, okay? So, I start you really quick on PHP. I gave you all the information and all the knowledge to start PHP right away, to start coding in PHP in your computer. This was a fast track, very fast, so that way you guys can get up and running with PHP. But now I'm going to take it down a notch, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you need to know in order for you to be coding in PHP besides just getting started, okay? Some of the major components of PHP are going to be variables, arrays, control structures like if statements, okay, switch statements, loops, things like that, things that will actually help you create programs in PHP, okay? So let's start with variables. I'm going to create another file here. I'm going to call this variables.php, okay? Remember that PHP, the extension, remember you can get HTML and PHP working together with that extension. So, variables. Let's go ahead and play around a little bit with variables. We already seen variables, right? We've seen that before, but now let's play a little bit more with them. Let's go ahead and create a variable called name. We already did this, right? Let's call it first name. We know that we can do this. Now, you might be noticing on some of the things that I'm doing actually here. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. I'm actually using something called camel case. I'm using lowercase in the beginning and the second word with uppercase. And I'm going to keep doing that every time I have a new word. Lowercase, uppercase, lowercase, uppercase. This is called camel case. And this is a very good convention for naming your variables. Okay? Don't ever name your variables like this. Let me actually open a PHP tag here. Less than symbol, question mark, PHP all together. I don't need to close it if I'm not going to be writing HTML. Okay, but get in the habit of closing it anyway. But as you can see, I got a red line right here. This is not a very good sign. Okay, don't ever write your variables with a hyphen. You can use underscores, that's acceptable. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the good conventions here and some of the bad conventions. Okay, we got the, first of all, we got the camel case right here. So I'm showing you how to define your PHP variables, okay? We got the underscore. You can also use, I'll show you, uppercase. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, these are the three most common ways of defining variables with PHP. What happens if I come here and I try to echo one of these guys out and I say I want to echo first name? What do you think this is going to happen? Let me come here. Actually, let's go back. Make this bigger so that way you guys can see what's going on. I have undefined, right? Because we don't have a variable with anything. It doesn't have a value, right? So why don't we give it a value? I'm gonna use single quotes in this case. As you can see, it works. Okay, so what happens if I use this variable down here again and I put another value? Let's put my last name, enter. Well, right now I have a syntax error, meaning that something is wrong with the syntax. Something is wrong with the way I'm writing it. All right, well, I'm missing a semicolon at the end here. It's called a statement. When you write your code and you finish, it's a statement. So I'm gonna put a semicolon and I'm gonna do Control S or Command S to save it, and now it works. But now look at the value that I got. I got Diaz now. Even though I have Edwin as the first value, when I declare the variable the next time with the same name, when I declare another variable with the same name, but I give a different value, it overrides the first one. Remember, programming starts from the top. Okay, so the processor, the PHP processor in the server starts reading line by line from the top down, okay, until it reaches the last line, okay? And I'm overriding that first variable. Now, if I have another variable down here with, I just make a little, I put the uppercase there and I give it, let's just give Diaz 222, enter. Nothing happens here, right? Because this is a totally different variable. This, remember, variables are case sensitive. So if you put any words that are different than the next one in lowercase or uppercase, the variable is totally going to be a different variable. Okay? They're very case sensitive. Now, this is just a little bit of overview with variables. Okay? We also have arrays. Okay? And arrays are another type of variables. So I can name my variables whatever I want. I'm gonna say some variable like this. But now arrays can hold more values. Instead of using a string or a number or something like that, we use brackets, or we use this array like this. You might see this in old PHP versions. Okay, and then you write your values there. But I'm gonna be using the new way of actually declaring or defining arrays. So we got variables like this, and then we got arrays, which are the same things as variables, but with arrays we have different syntax, different ways of writing things. I'm going to say Edwin here. I'm going to put a comma, single quotes again, and I'm going to do Diaz. You can put double quotes if you want. I'm just using single quotes because it's just a lot easier. So I want you to look at the syntax here, the way we are writing it. We got square brackets. This is how we define a variable. This is an array. This is an empty array here. We don't need to do anything else. It's just empty. Right now, we put in values in there. So we put a string. Okay, if it's a string, we put a single quotes separated by a comma, and then single quotes again for the second value, and so on and so on. If we have numbers, we don't need the strings. We can just put the numbers there. We don't need the single quotes, I mean. So with arrays, you can have different values separated by commas. Okay, like this. Just gonna put this a little bigger here so that way you can see it. Okay, so now you might be thinking, so how can we display the value or use the values in here? Well, if I do echo, right? Well, look what happened now when I save my file. Array to string conversion is a notice telling me I cannot do that. Okay, and it's actually echoing out the array. And this is the line right here, echo line 15 array, but it doesn't display the value. That's because we need to tell it to. We need the square brackets. Each of this value have an index, a number. Okay, this is 0 index, this is index number 1, index number 2. All arrays start in 0 index. The first value is always going to be 0. Okay, save. And now you can see that I'm displaying that first value of that array there. If I want the second value, I know it's kind of confusing, right? I will have to do number 1, enter, and you can see the second value right here. Super confusing, but that's the way it's done. Okay. Now you can save different data in arrays. Okay. Don't get me wrong, this is not the only thing you can save there. We can actually come here and put this variable inside there. Now if I do the 0 here and I press save, I get the same value because this thing is overriding it. So let me just take this out of here, and I'm just gonna put Martinez here, press save, and now you can see a different value. So we can not only put numbers, but we can put other variables inside arrays. Okay, so now with this way of doing arrays, this is the simplest way of doing arrays. There is also another way of doing arrays, which is called associative arrays. Okay, and those are a little bit more complicated. Okay, these have keys that you can use. Okay, so here basically keys work like labels, and we can name these keys whatever we want. For example, I'm gonna name this key, let's say, I don't know, Edwin, my name, and then we have this equal than symbol here, and then the greater than symbol all together, and then the next value, let's say the age, my age, or something like that. Okay, we can start to see how this is becoming more complex. Now we have another person here called Jose, for example. Then we go ahead and give Jose an age. Okay, now if we want to display these values, this works a little different. Let's actually take the S out of here. Let's come back here. What happens if we do 0? What do you think is going to happen? It says undefined offset. What if we use the label? What if we use the name here? Oh, look at that. We get the value. So associative arrays can be actually called by their label. Now, the difference between these two is that this one doesn't have labels, doesn't have keys, and this does. This is when you have more complex data that you need more things to be named or defined. Okay. Now, this by default does have an index. Okay, it does have an index of numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. But this, you can actually name your labels. You can name your index. You can go ahead and do something like that. Okay, and then do this. Okay, and you can see that we actually are doing the same thing we were doing up here, right? We got a label, an index of 0. But with associative array, we make our own labels. Okay, and if you want to see the structure of an array, all you have to do is use a pre-built function. We haven't got to that yet, but they are pre-built functions that you can use in PHP. Okay, print underscore R, and then you close everything by parentheses. You can see the structure of that array. See, it's array, then we have the label, the value, label, and value. Okay, and if you do this one here, if I didn't have a syntax error, that would be so nice, but it's not. There we go. This is the structure of the first array. As you can see, label is 0, 1, and 2. Okay, pretty awesome stuff, right, guys? Very easy to grasp once you start doing it over and over again. Repetition is the key to actually learning anything, okay, especially programming, because you need to actually understand. You don't actually, I take that back. You don't need to understand programming 100% to start programming, but to actually develop really cool applications and things like that, you do need to understand it, okay. And this is what I teach in my full course of PHP, how to build really awesome applications, okay, from scratch. You don't even need to know programming to actually get into that course. So anyway, I'll show you some more things about PHP, where we're going to be discussing about functions, and we are also going to be looping through data and displaying them, so that way you can see how that works. We're also going to be doing control structures, okay, if statements. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next couple seconds. Take care. Hi, welcome back, my dear students. So I wanted to actually show you about functions before we go ahead and go to construct structures and so on. Just because I already kind of show you a function here, actually two functions. If you do not recognize this, echo is also a function, but we don't need to put the parentheses like we do here. So before we get too far ahead on this and you get confused, let me show you what a function is, okay? And let me show you why we use them. So I'm going to create a file real quick here. I'm going to call this functions.php. Guys, and in my full course, we go through a lot more details than what I'm actually going here for, okay? I want to get you up and running with PHP as fast as I possibly can, okay? But remember that you still have the option to take the full course, which the link is in the bottom of the description again. So we got functions here, and let's open a PHP tag, and let's actually define a function. So what is a function? A function holds a piece of code, or it could be a very long piece of code, and we can reuse it over and over again just by using the name of that function. So we define a function like this with the function keyword, and we give it whatever name we want. I like to give the functions, and it's recommended to give the function a name of what it's actually doing, like something that's describing what it's doing. For example, this function that I'm about to create is going to display a name. So I'm going to call it display uppercase name. I like to name my functions like this. And now we put parentheses, the left parentheses and the right parentheses. See that? All together. Not like this, but like this. Command S, Control S to save. And then this two as well. The left curly bracket and the right curly bracket. Okay? Very simple to get, okay? The shift key, and it's very close to your enter key, okay? Then you put your cursor right in between here and you bring it down. Now you're gonna see this written in different ways, like this, with the opening curly bracket and the closing curly brackets in different lines, or this one very close to the parentheses. I like to leave them like this just because I learned it like this, okay? Now these curly brackets is where you're going to be executing code. Remember that this function is going to display something. So let's make it display something. I'm going to echo out my name, Edwin Diaz. Okay. But now, as you can see, there's nothing here when I do Command S or Control S to save the file. Remember that I'm also saving the file, guys. When you see this changing here, I'm automatically like typing this in my keyboard. Command S, Control S, or save. Okay, that's what I'm actually doing right here, you see? So to execute what's inside this function, we need to use the name of the function like this, put a parenthesis, and then save it. And you can see now that that code is being executed. Now you might be wondering why in the world we using parentheses. This is just in case we need to execute, we need to pass on parameters. I'll show you that in a minute. But as you can see, we are displaying that function. We can have as many functions as we want, and they can be very long, they can be very short. Some functions can help other functions. You can embed different functions inside other functions, okay? So for example, I'm gonna call this function process code, okay? I should have left the other one and do like a copy and paste, but this one is going to be display name. display name like this. Okay. Now that this function on top is just going to execute this function right here. So I'm gonna put display name right inside the other function, and instead of calling this function, I'm gonna call this function down below. You always do this below. Press enter and you're gonna see this the same. I'm gonna change the name so you can see that I'm not lying to you. Okay, there we go. You see that? And you can do this as many times as you want. Okay, so as you can see, you can divide your code like that. You can have, let's create another function to give me a calculation. Let's do add numbers. Okay, so this function's job is going to just add numbers. I'm going to use a new keyword that I want you to be paying very close attention because it's very important. I'm going to return something out of the function. So now this function, I can do whatever I want with it at the end when I'm calling it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass a variable. I'm going to put a variable here. Variable x and variable y. I can name my variables whatever I want. And I'm going to return the x plus the y. Okay, this is just a shorthand for writing something bigger. Like I don't want to write longer names. That's why I'm naming it x and y. Remember that with PHP you can add, you can multiply, you can subtract, you can divide. So division is /, subtract minus, asterisk, or the number 8, my keyboard is for multiplication, and so on. Okay, so now when I use this to call this function, okay, I'm gonna do it down here. It's telling me that I can pass 2 parameters. This is what this means right here. I'm putting a variable that does not exist anywhere. Okay, it's just like a placeholder for me passing parameters here. And then inside the function, these curly brackets, I'm using these 2 parameters that I'm going to pass in, and I'm adding them. So whatever parameters they are. How can we don't know what parameters are going to come in this when we call in the functions. That's why we put a variable. And when we call a function here, you can pass whatever parameters you want. I'm going to pass number 5, comma, and the number 8. Enter. Now, or save. Make sure you save the files. You see that this is actually not displaying anything like this one was, right? That's because I'm not doing echo inside the function. I'm doing return. Okay? So this function is returning the addition of these 2 values added together. So now I can come here and I can do echo. Okay? When I'm calling the function, and it's giving me 13 because 5 plus 8 is 13 if my memory serves me right. So as you can see, and you can pass any values you want, guys. This PHP is very good adding stuff too. See that? Let's actually do multiplication now. 976, you see that? But of course, this is called add numbers, so we don't like to do that, right? So this return value right now, let's just put a simple value here. 5 and 8 is 13. Look what I'm going to do right now. Okay? I'm going to create a different number here. Number. And I'm just going to make it 100 just to make it. Okay? I'm going to put a semicolon right here so I don't get an error. Because if you notice, it's not giving me an error right here, and I'm saving the file. It's because the semicolon stops that statement. Okay, so if I don't have anything on the bottom there, it's it's really not giving me any errors. It doesn't give me any errors. But if I have some type of code below, then that's when I get errors, because I'm not closing this semicolon. Always get in the habit of doing that. So I got a different number here, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the add numbers, which is 13. Remember, okay? I'm gonna add it, and I'm gonna put that there. Just look what I just did. I put the plus symbol, okay? and I'm adding whatever is returning from this function, which is here, or whatever is returning. Remember, 5 and 8 is what we're adding, okay, to 100. I should get 113. And all these values are going to be stored in this number variable. So now here I can come, I'm going to put a VR tag because I want a separate line. And I want to echo out that number variable. I know this might look confusing, but trust me, look at that, 113. So this is why we use this return, okay, to return whatever calculation we have here, so that way we can use it, we can use that function's return value to do whatever other calculations we have inside. Okay, this might look very confusing right now to you guys, but I'm pretty sure that it will get a lot easier the more you do it. Okay, so keep that in mind, that you can do all these things, guys. And let me just take this out, okay, just so this becomes a little clearer for you. Okay, let me recap on what we did with functions, because it's super important for you to understand it. Okay, if you already know it, forward this video. So look what we're doing here. We are defining a function called add numbers. We're putting variables right here, okay, because we are going to be expecting two values. This has to be in the same order, by the way. So this 5 is the same value here. This 8 is here. If we had another value here, we press enter, save, we get nothing here. Okay, but we have to have the other value here. Let's say S. Okay, now it's telling me, hey, listen, yeah, we don't have that value. Where did you get that value? Okay, so plus symbol again, S, and now it's telling me, hey, you forgot the dollar symbol. There we go. And now it's telling me, hey, you're missing 3 for add numbers, argument 3. So make sure that these variables are all the same, okay? And have another one here, and there you go. Okay, so whatever you have here as parameters, make sure that you're also using it down here. If not, you're gonna get some type of error, as we got right here. Remember that? Okay, so this is how we use function, guys. It's super cool to use them, very useful, and you're gonna see them a lot in all programming languages. See you in the next lecture, guys. Take care. Welcome, my dear students. So in this lecture, in this particular section here, I'm going to show you about control structures. And I'm going to show you why they're so useful and why we use them a lot, right? And how to use them, how to define them, how to play around with them. You're going to have a lot of fun with control structures. Now, what are control structures? Let's go and create a new file right here. I'm going to call this control structures, if I remember how to spell this correctly, .php. Open my PHP tags and close it. Let's start with the first control structure that's very useful. Let's say, for example, I want to find out if a user is logged in my application. If the user is logged in, I want to do something based on that condition. So control structures help us, okay, help our programs make decisions based on something, okay, based on some value. So if something is true, execute. I don't know if you write execute like this, but there we go. Okay, and this is the structure of it. And then we have the else statement, just in case that condition doesn't pass. And we also have another one that we can do before that one, which is else if. This is another condition that we can pass right here. Okay, so I'm going to show you these three. You don't have to put all of these three together there. Okay, so let's actually start with a value here. I'm going to do x equals 10. Okay, so I'm going to say if x equals 10, I want you to echo x. And we are echoing x, which the value is 10. Okay, now this is called an operator. Okay, this is a equal operator. This is an assignment operator because we are assigning a value, and it's just one symbol. But when you put them together, when you put two of these, you make this an equality operator, and you can have three to make it more strict. Okay, so this is a less than symbol. If I save my file, which you see me saving it, every time you see me going like this, you see that flashing, I'm saving the file with my keyboard. Command S or Control S as Sam. S for save, of course. So we're saying here, if x is less than 10, echo x. It doesn't echo, it doesn't display because it's not true. But if I do else, this is the next condition, just in case this one fails. We're gonna say failed here. See that? Then we can do the other condition. I'm just gonna put else statement here. Else is the last statement you want. Else if. There we go, and we put them right behind each other like this. Okay, and we can just say if x is equal than 8. Okay, so right here we're saying if x is less than 10, let's just put is greater than 10. Okay, and let's just put 8. And as you can see, we are echoing x when it gets to 10, right? And of course it's 10 here, so of course it's being echoed, right? Because it's equal to 10. Okay, but if we put, let's say 7, it's else because it's not greater than 10, it's not equal to 8, then we get the else statement. Okay, and you know, of course, when we have a program, we are going to be doing a lot more cooler stuff than this. This is just an example. Okay, so this is the if statement. Pretty cool, pretty simple. But now then we have something called loops. Okay, and PHP has a couple loops, and every programming language out there has different loops. Okay, different ways of writing loops, but they all do the same. This function, pre-built function, what it does is that it keeps executing the code. It keeps repeating or looping around the code over and over again until the condition is met. Okay, for example, right now x is equal to 7. I'm gonna make x equal to 0, or let's make it equal to 1. Okay, it's telling me my loop is not working right. Error unexpected. Yeah, I know that because I'm not putting anything in there. Okay, so if I do echo, okay, let's make sure that this is good. Anyway, it's gonna give me the error until I write something inside my loop. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say while x, okay, is smaller or equal than 10, keep executing this code right here. And look what it's doing here when I save the file. This is gonna crash my. It's gonna crash my my browser. Look at that. You see that? Unlimited, infinity. It's gonna crash a browser. I'm gonna take that off. So this is very dangerous, this loop right here, because we need to tell it to stop. Right now we're saying, hey, listen, while x is smaller or equal than 10, keep executing this code. And right now x, it is smaller, okay, and it's always gonna stay smaller than 10 because we're not doing anything to increase the value of x. Right now x is always 1. So that's why this code is always executing, while x is smaller or equal. This is a greater and less than symbol with an assignment together is less or equal than 10. So it's always going to be less because we're not incrementing x. Let's go ahead and increment x by doing this. X plus plus, enter, or save, Command S, Control S. Okay. And now let's go and you can see now that S is being outputted a couple times there. Let's actually make this more understandable. Let's actually display it. Let me do this so that way I have the live preview available for you guys. And as you can see, the x value gets to 10 and stops. Okay, so I want you to see what this is doing. It's starting at number 1. So this function here is looping. Okay, it's grabbing x and saying, okay, is x smaller or equal than 10? Well, it's smaller, but it's not equal to 10. So, and we can make it like this, more understandable. Now we don't have the 10. I'm gonna explain to you why we don't have it. But right now we're saying if x is less than 10, I want you to execute x. So the first time it goes around, we execute number 1. Now it's gonna go again and try to see if this condition is true again, and it keeps saying it's x right now, but once it displays the number 1, it increments the x. So next time around, x is gonna be equal to 2, but it's still not true right here. X still, well, it is still true. X is still smaller than 10, right? So we're gonna keep executing x. We go to number 2. We increment x again. We go around, and now x is equal to 3. Is x smaller than 10? Yes. And it's gonna keep going and going and going around and being incremented until it stops when it reaches 10. It says, is x smaller than 10? Yes, it is. So stop. And it doesn't display the number 10. It doesn't display x again. That's why it stops at 9, because 9 is the last x that it displayed before it got to the wrong condition. Now, if we put the little assignment here, which makes it less than or equal, then when it gets to be equal than 10, it stops. Because when it goes and increments x and it becomes 11, and it says, okay, is x less or equal than 10? No. So don't go any further. But it already displayed the x. Okay, because we have the little assignment operator here, makes it equal. All right. So very, very, very easy to understand. This is a while loop. Now we also have another loop, which is the for loop. Okay, and this one is very similar to that one, but we go ahead and define the variable inside here, and then here we put this condition. We do everything in the parentheses, and then here we do this condition here. Okay, and we separate each of these values with a semicolon, by the way, if you're not paying attention. Okay, and this is remember that this is a pre-built function, and that's why you have parentheses, but it is for this function is for the language itself, right? PHP has it inside. So we're gonna echo x again. Okay, and right now it's saying, oh, use of undefined. This is because we missed this. There we go. Same thing as this. Okay, we set the x to 0, we give it a condition, and we increment it. We're all in the same line. I prefer this approach a lot better than the last approach. Okay, so you might be thinking, why do we use loops? Well, when you want to loop through a big tons of data and you want to display them or do something when process that data, you use loops. You want to repeat that code over and over again. You don't want to keep, defining a function for each of those steps. You want something to be repeated over and over again. That's why you use a loop. Then we have another kind of loop. It's called the for each. Now the for each is going to need an array. Okay, this one you have, let's say for example, some type of data. Let's let's call it data here. And in this case, it's going to be an array, but it could be some type of database. And then we have, I don't know, a BMW car here. Then we have a Honda or something like that. And then maybe we have a Toyota. Okay. And we want to display those values. Okay. Remember that we can't do this. We can't do this because we're not going to be able to display that data, right? If we save our file, let's comment this out and save it. Okay. Well, and make sure that we spell this correctly. Do is convert this array into some type of string. So it's telling PHP is giving us some type of note. It says we can't do that, and it's displaying. It's giving us an array, but we're not displaying the data. We need to do something like this, right? 0, right? But what if we wanted to display everything? Well, we need a loop for that. This is when loops are useful. So I'm going to say I want to loop through the data array as I'm gonna give it this keyword here helps us give it some type of name alias that we can call that value once it pulls it out. I'm gonna give it a car value or a variable name car. You can give this variable whatever name you want. This is a dynamic variable. It's gonna be equal to each of these values. You see, this loop right here is going to go inside this index and get the value out and assign it to this variable right here. So we're looping this data array as car, which becomes a value of each index. And now we can come here and we can say, display the car. And now we can see all the cars right here. Okay, now you can make this a little better and you can concatenate some type of HTML element here to have a line. See that? So every time the loop goes around, we put a new line. Break, break, a break, example. Okay? See how that works? So imagine this was some type of database and you're looping through all that information. Maybe there were names of users in your application and you wanted to display their, the names in some type of chat application that you have in your some type of chat room that you have in your application. You will be able to do that with a for each. They're very useful. Anyway, I think we're done with this. We construct structures. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more examples that I can give you. But if you want to really get a concept, a grasp of PHP and really build something amazing from scratch without knowing any type of programming, then you need to take that course that is in the bottom of this description. The link is there. Take it. It's really good. If you have any questions, please post it. You can find me anywhere. My blog is edwindiaz.com. You can find me on Udemy, Edwin Diaz. Find all my courses. We have a lot of instructors, very skilled people showing really good stuff in Udemy. If you have not subscribed to the channel, do it now. You won't regret it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Take care, guys.